Welcome to the egcfpodcast, where we have in-depth conversations about topics that we may not cover on Sunday morning. In this episode, we talk about Proverbs 31. Happy Friday, everybody. My name is Nate.
Hi, my name's Robbie.
My name is Rob. I'm one of the pastors here at Eastgate.
I'm Janelle.
My name is Blake. I'm the community pastor here at Eastgate Christian Fellowship.
I'm a pastor too. I forgot to say it.
I'm a pastor as well, but for the youngins.
What's your name?
Nate, I already said it.
Oh, I wasn't listening.
Plus, there's
You're not going to hold that against me, are you?
on the podcast. It says I'm Nate. I'm the producer of this podcast. It doesn't say producer, but it should. I think.
Should I say producer instead of student pastor?
Whatever you want.
I think you should say both. I'm both the student pastor and the producer of this amazing podcast.
I produce student pastors.
I'm a productive student pastor. A podcast
that produces products.
I just imagine you going home to tell your parents, Mom, Dad, I'm a productive student pastor now. Respect me.
I got a promotion.
All right, so we're going to be talking about Proverbs 31, the latter half of it. The first part is about don't be drunk.
It's not
pretty much.
It's fine.
Do we want to read it?
Yes, please.
Which part?
It's
the whole
2
thing?
minutes and 13 seconds.
We can read the latter half. So I have
read it in 1.5 times speed.
I've not gone into study into this until now. So I read it in a few different versions of the Bible, and I'll tell you my takeaways. But we can go ahead and read it if you want to.
I think just the part where it starts in verse 10.
You want me to read it? I got it right here.
Yeah.
All right. A wife of noble character. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She's more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. She's like a merchant's ship, bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and buys it, and with her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She's energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspreads. She dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She's clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are so many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty doesn't last. But a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise.
I think it's worth noting that this was apparently written by a mother to her son as instruction, I think, in how to find a good wife. I think that's an interesting context for it. It's not a man saying sorry, but it's not a man shaking his finger and you women, you better be like this. It was a woman saying, this is the kind of wife you want to look for.
Yeah. So this is an acrostic poem, and an acrostic poem is a poem that spells something out with the first letter of each line. And in this case, it's the Hebrew alphabet. So that's fun, I think.
That is fun.
And
I mean, fun for Bible nerds.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who would look at that and say, your definition of fun is a lot different from mine. But yes, for us Bible nerds, this is great stuff.
I rewrote it in the English alphabet if we want to get to that later. But
yeah, that sounds awesome. Wait a minute. You mean you wrote it with an acrostic with the A, B, C, D, E?
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
And you were able to keep it the same? I mean, keep it
pretty much.
Transliterate it? That's so cool. Nate, I'm impressed. You're fun.
I thought you would like that.
I'm just remembering that verse in Revelation where it says, if anyone adds one jot or tittle to this.
Nate, you got some splaining to do.
So, to me, this, like you said, with like a mother describing, I guess, like an ideal woman, what that's like. So that was my takeaway when I went and studied this, was that, it's a description in poem form of what an ideal woman would look like, essentially. And then the themes that I got from that were, it's kind, generous, hardworking, resourceful, plans ahead, financially responsible.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my takeaway.
Yeah, I like that.
I also, like, if we were to like break this down like as like a literal translation, this is what a woman should be. I also wrote those down in bullet points if we want to go through those. It's kind of fun for Bible nerds.
Very much so.
So it starts off, the first line, a good woman is hard to find and worth far more than diamonds. And I've got a few different translations here. Who can find a virtuous, capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. A wife of noble character? Who can find? That's the NIV translation. A wife of noble character? Who can find?
Who can find?
That's it. So right off the bat, there's scarcity. This kind of woman is hard to find and is rare.
I think what we need to think about, too, is what we're talking about when we say a virtuous woman. I know that for me, I hear virtuous woman or something like that. It's cloaked in, there's a certain religious flavor to it. And probably because of what we came from, what we were schooled in and stuff. But I like, in the Hebrew, it's the Esher Hayil. It's the woman of valor. I think that captures it much better, and it kind of rescues it from this sense of a trap of domesticity, if you know what I mean.
If I knew that word, I'd definitely know what you meant.
I would know if I knew that word too.
Oh, well,
the 50s housewife.
Yeah, exactly. And, we think, it's suddenly trapped in domestic chores and things like that. Though, as we've read, it's way more than that. You had pointed something out this morning, Robbie. Am I derailing us?
No.
Okay, but you had pointed something out that you saw in the Bible Project about the framing of this, how the Proverbs begins with the instructions, the father's instructions to the son.
No.
He goes through all of these things. Attend to me, my son.
Yeah, the book of Proverbs, not just that chapter, but the whole book begins with words from a father to a son about listening to Lady Wisdom, and then it closes, as the Bible Project says appropriately, by offering the words from a mother to her son about a woman who lives wisely. So I think it's interesting kind of bookends.
So I want to say some stuff before Janelle and Robbie start talking. So what's going to end up happening with me is I'm going to feel like I'm mansplaining everything if I speak later on, and I don't.
And what he means by that is, I'm sorry.
Anyway, Janelle just rolled her eyes in the back of her head when her dad spoke. So this starts out talking about this king. Keep wanting to say lemur, but it's not lemur. Lemuel.
The lemur.
It's the one from
Disney cartoon.
The one from the cartoon. But it starts out talking about this guy, and it's mom giving instructions to a king on how to be a good king, And so this is starting out just looking at the traditional way that we've misconstrued Proverbs 31 for a long time. This is beginning again. It gets back kind of to the New Testament one about women respect your husbands, but it's truncated in a list of things that men are supposed to be doing for their wives and how they're supposed to love their wives.
Embedded in, yeah.
And then there's 1-2 verses in there about women, and then it gets back to what men are supposed to be doing. And in here, it starts out talking about what men are supposed to be doing, specifically a king, and we tend to gloss over
the first part of the chapter.
Yes, that we did not read, but and instructions on what to do, and it's really good stuff in there about what a good king looks like, and I would encourage anybody to go and read that. But
especially if you're going to be a king.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say in any kind of leadership position or anything like that.
Of course.
But so I did a lot of research on this for 15 minutes whenever I found out that we were going to be doing this. And there was a couple thoughts that came to mind, and I'd like your opinions about. Whenever I was kind of first reading through it again for the first time in probably a decade, it's the mother talking about this virtuous woman and everything like that. And one of my thoughts was, has she ever met a woman? Because I was like, it's an impossible task, it seems to me. And so I started looking into buying land and making a vineyard and all this other stuff. Those were like incredibly rare for women to be able to do during that time. Am I wrong about that?
Well, it depends. I mean, and it is framed within the construct of a noblewoman. So, I mean, that's...
Got it. So if this is written to nobility, this is something, the Bible's written to a lot of people that we can still take things from and apply it to our lives. Of course,
yeah, absolutely.
So just because this was written to nobility doesn't mean that it's exclusive to nobility.
No. But that's where we're getting the broadness of her activities and the implied wealth behind the activity.
Yeah, like Scarlet and
exactly, is because we're talking to a noblewoman. Here, real quick, and I don't want to derail what you were. Were you going somewhere with?
No, I was. That was more of a question, like observations that I had that I would like to have answers to, even if it's just like, you're dumb, Blake. I like just to know.
Well, let's do this. Let's start with the way that this is normally approached. Like this, especially within. Let's get myopic with it and look at 21st century evangelicalism, or 21st century evangelicalism, and how this passage has been read and how it's been used and even misused. And I think at that point, it'd be best for me not to talk and for like Janelle or Robbie to be talking about. Like, because she's older. Robbie, your first encounters with this, how was this presented to you? How did you first understand this passage and its application to you?
Well, I mean, it was definitely in the context of the crazy church for us, and it was used more as instructional and bordered on scolding, and was a very high standard. And I think it created even some competitiveness, probably, with the different women there. Sewing, who's going to sew their kids' clothes, who's going to, some of the things stood out in terms of like the businesswoman. I'm not sure that we really like embraced that side of it too much. It was definitely more, it was a little bit far on that one. But, within reason, some of that was expected and allowed to, but yeah, definitely a thing very scary, very difficult to ever come close to living up to. It still feels a little intimidating, to be honest, as I read it, because I feel like how can one person embody all of those attributes? Yes, thank you.
How do you feel about it now?
I've made more peace with it, and I think there's a lot of, I love the practical, that's kind of my world, but some of it is obscure and doesn't really fit maybe with my personality or even our culture on some things, but I definitely have more peace with it now and feel like it has a lot more to do with moral character than a lot of these physical, specific things that are talked about. I think caring for your family is huge, and the husband being able to trust in her is, I think, an attribute worth, trying to embody or whatever, feeling like you're trustworthy, and so it feels a little more possible now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up feeling like this was the goal to like attain to. Like as a Christian female, this is what you look to of trying to be. And, I was asking the guys here, have any of you ever participated in a Proverbs 31 small group before, or teaching, like lesson, group like that, or conference or anything like that? Where you were being instructed?
No, yes, just not a small group or things like that. In the Crazy Church, we probably spent an entire series going through this. Yeah.
Was it directed for the men or the women?
It was directed for both, because the men were supposed to know how to train their wives to be good. Yeah. Look, right. I see the expressions. I'm embarrassed too.
I know.
No, you're good. I don't say painful. This. I'm not making that face against you. Nate, Blake, have you guys ever?
No, like I said, that this was my first time diving into this.
Yeah, so it can be really hard because you're given the standard that no person can attain to. And you feel like if I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be as a female, as a Christian, like you're given this standard that you're just like, I can't do that. And so it's hard to not beat yourself up with it. And even with Mom saying, like, even now reading it, I feel the exact same way. It's hard not to have a reaction to it, even though I have a very different take on it now, which I am excited to share about. You still, because it affected so much of, yeah. What were you going to say, Dad?
Well, I was going to say that it had its effect too on single men. Like, so the single men within the context of the church that I was raised in, all of a sudden this became the standard. And I had plenty of male friends who were like, well, I haven't found the Proverbs 31 woman yet, so I can't, I'm not getting married because until I find her, I'm not, nobody's living up to it. Because I, was watching her cook and she burned something. So she's not, or whatever, just horrible stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's always, not always, but a lot has just been used as a standard, like a measurement against women. Like you stand next to Proverbs 31 and just, it doesn't matter who you are, you're never going to measure up.
And I will say that the grace that men allow for themselves, because there's plenty, like Blake was pointing out, there are so many passages in Scripture about, that create standards for men that we apply all kinds of grace to. Well, nobody's perfect. And they're all going to fall short and everything.
It's a metaphor.
But women, on the other hand,
So in 2013, I pulled up my email from May 8th, 2013. I emailed N.T. Wright about this passage because it really bothered me. And I was telling everybody here.
Still waiting on an email back?
No, he responded quickly. But when I read the initial email I sent, I'm just cringing.
Responded quickly, please never write me again.
It was so disrespectful. I would never ever write to him or anybody in that manner.
You were disrespectful to him?
I felt like I was incredibly disrespectful to Scripture, to him, to all of it. But it's an interesting thing, and this is something that I feel like is surprising in my testimony that I keep coming back to over and over, is that like we don't have to be afraid. Like we can bring our honest concerns and reactions to Scripture, and like God will meet us there. And that I can even look back 13 years ago, I think I was pretty disrespectful. God met me there, and he helped me to feel this way that I today, as much as yes, hearing it brings back those ideas of like, okay, I have to tell myself this isn't a standard I'm supposed to be held to. I'm not afraid of Proverbs 31 today. In fact, I was very excited to share about Proverbs 31 today.
And if N.T. Wright listens to this podcast, I'd like you to know that Janelle is very sorry
I'm very
about
sorry.
that.
And when we're very embarrassed
I
to
wrote
be
him a few
associated with her.
times.
So,
but I have his response to it.
would it be
we're not.
beneficial if I go ahead and I wrote down all the from this perspective?
Yes, do that, and then
I
I'll
wrote
read his
down all the
response.
things that. Okay, so to be a good and virtuous, honorable woman, you need to 1, have a husband that can trust you. Be good to your husband and don't bring him harm. Find fibrous materials to busily spin. Work with your hands. Bring exotic food from far away. Get up before dawn to prepare breakfast and plan the day. Inspect and purchase land. Use your savings to plant and grow crops on that land. Be strong and hardworking. Make sure your business is profitable. Work late into the night. So I guess don't ever sleep. Keep your hands...
2 hours, dude.
Yeah. Keep your hands busy by, again, spinning thread. Be generous and helpful to the poor and needy. Make sure everyone in your house has warm clothes for winter. Make your own bed sheets. Wear fine linen and purple clothes. Have a husband that is well known and works in government. Make clothes and sell them. Supply vendors with sashes. Be clothed in honor and dignity. Rejoice without fear. When you speak, speak wisdom and do it kindly. Carefully watch over your household. And after all that, don't be lazy.
In your free time.
I just picture you bringing this list home to your wife, Dakota. Staple it to the wall, see what she does.
Yeah. Okay, we're almost done here. Have children that bless you. Have a husband that praises you. A lot of women have done this well, but do it better than all of them. Receive reward for all you have done. Allow the work that you have done bring you public praise. That's it.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
And so what is
much.
unrealistic about that? I mean, that's what I think. I was even thinking about with us laughing. I'm like, oh, I hope people don't feel like we're being disrespectful to Scripture.
Exactly.
But it is interesting. It's funny in that we would ever expect women to be able to do all of these things.
Exactly. It shows the absurdity of misreading Scripture, of looking at it as though it's a checklist and a competition sheet for who's going to be the virtuous woman.
Or measurement that you stand next to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it shows how absurd the whole thing is. So, yes, we're not laughing at Scripture. We're laughing at the way we misapply it.
So when I wrote Into Right, I talked about my frustration with this Scripture. That's how I'm going to phrase that. And
I really want to see this.
I've
email.
never.
read that email
I want to
so bad.
burn it. How do I burn the internet?
When you figure it out, you let us know, though, because
You got some spring break videos.
some matches.
Okay, so he says, "Hey Janelle." Because we're friends. Thanks for this. No time for a long answer, I'm afraid. That's probably because of how horrible my first email was. It says, there are many Bible passages that make women feel beaten down. But again and again, the point is rather what people have traditionally done with them. Just kind of why we were talking about what we were laughing about. It says, actually, Proverbs 31 gives the wife a remarkably active and powerful role, doing all kinds of things which are creative, economically independent, etc. Part of what's going on is that the figure of Lady Wisdom who dominates, the word isn't too strong, the opening chapters of this book is Yahweh's right-hand person in creation itself. And this is then reflecting in the wife who is the husband's right-hand person in being able to have a happy and outward-looking home. Of course, this too can be perverted in a variety of ways. Wow. So
He should write a book.
it was so good. It was very eye-opening, I think, in realizing like, oh, this wasn't meant to be like women. This is how you need to be. It was this realization of like, oh, this is for men to appreciate all that women are contributing to the story because they are not in that time, especially given, the praise for all that they do to help and the partnership that they bring to the situation.
And it allows them to participate in an area that they typically were not going to be allowed in. Like Jessica covered a lot of that in the Paul and gender thing that to us, different time.
Right.
We look at it as demeaning, but at that point it was more of an empowerment.
Right.
And I love
yeah,
that.
and again, not saying women deserve praise, but recognizing that they are in partnership, even going back to creation with Adam and Eve, like doing this together, not just as a submissive person, but and not just trying
Right,
not
but
to
as
mess them up.
as an equal partner
Yeah.
in this rule over creation that
Yeah.
God presented to the human race.
And so that's where when I asked like about the men who've participated in Proverbs 31 small groups, I'm like, I think about how many women who have participated. And again, it's studying each line by line of how we can measure up to be this person. And I'm like, it's so backwards. It really should be men. Let's appreciate how women are contributing and how
Right on.
Right,
they
yeah.
are, alongside, we all are alongside each other working together towards the same goal.
How is it that we do that so often? I was talking to Rob about a passage from last Sunday, how we read it and then take it as the opposite of what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So painfully often.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how often I go into Scripture now.
Well, we got a skill. I mean, everybody
we have
needs
a special set of skills.
Humans have a skill
Yeah.
for messing this up.
Kate's song, I think about this line all the time, that song that she wrote, that she sang that one Sunday. She says, "You gave us a mirror, but we turned it around on the room."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's so good. That's such a good line. Every line in that song is good. That one is especially profound.
This is a perfect example of that.
Right.
And that's where, I don't feel beaten down by Proverbs 31 anymore. And I feel like I want to share that with other people.
Oh, sorry. No, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I was just thinking about the history of misogyny, and how because of that history and background, you can take this verse and make it fit. And like I said earlier, even in the Crazy Church, the part about the business we kind of glossed over because women were to be in the home and raising children and caring for them. And yeah, you can, sew your kids' clothes, but we didn't really accept all of that. There was a lot of that misogynist kind of mindset. And unfortunately is a big history of that in the church and still is around in a lot of ways. So people will take these verses or whatever, and try to make it fit that agenda and that mindset, which is really frustrating.
And we see, and like even what Blake said, we see that happen all over Scripture with all sorts of people. It's not just women, but
Didn't Jesus say something along the lines of, if you're going to follow the law, you better follow all of the law?
I think that was in
Paul says it.
Paul, okay.
Yeah. Whoever obligates himself to one part of the law is obligated to the whole of the law. I believe it's in Colossians, but I'd have to look it up. I'm not great at doing those off the top of my head, but it was the Apostle Paul making a point about how we can't pull parts of the law, especially like his point at that was circumcision, and just assume that that's how we're connected to God. If you put yourself under the obligation to the law, you're obligated to the entire thing. So I guess one of the things that I thought was really interesting in looking this over, especially leaning into N.T. Wright's perspective on it. So Wright actually sees this in other writings that he does, expounding on what he said to you there. He sees it as basically like the summary of Lady Wisdom. So he connects it completely to Proverbs 8. This is Lady Wisdom, and this is just the practical way in which we're seeing this embodied. And it's not supposed to be, in our thinking, limited to gender. It's not supposed to be limited to, this is what women, this is like, because just like wisdom, Lady Wisdom isn't supposed to be limited in our thinking to being simply a feminine attribute. This is something for all of us to be embracing and living out. And that's how he sees the conclusion of Proverbs in this embodiment, this dramatic demonstration of what that wisdom looks like in application. And look at how the themes of justice come out in this, of being a voice for the voiceless and caring for the poor and things along those lines. And all of the industry is not intended for personal gain. All of the industry that's represented in that is for the benefit of others, to bring others into the flourishing of life. And that's the wisdom of God, whatever's going to lead us into the flourishing of life for all people. And I think it's a brilliant take on that.
So I have a question. So I have the benefit of having a female pastor that I can speak to.
But I'd like you to stop speaking to me as much as you do.
I never speak to her.
But so if let's say that somebody's listening to this that's a pastor at another church that doesn't have that privilege. If I'm speaking, there's a lot of women that I find that are under this, law or whatever. I don't burden, I guess, is the best way to say it. I would certainly feel inadequate to try and I've tried to do studies on some of this stuff. I would certainly feel inadequate on trying to describe that or help them in that situation or out of that situation or anything. Would you have any advice for what's a guy to do, right?
Well, first of all, are they asking for advice? Because I think it's something, where we don't want to, we want to be careful as we're.
So oftentimes just in pastoring, people will talk to us about situations that they're having and things that they're trying to work through with God and that kind of thing.
And so they're like, I'm trying to be the Proverbs 31 woman, but I'm struggling.
That, yes.
Like, how would you respond to that?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say that I personally don't read Proverbs 31 as a specific woman that we're all trying to embody, that it represents female contributions at that time and making sure that we appreciate it. But I also would say, like what Dad is saying as well, is that it represents Lady Wisdom as the partnership to that, and that this is something that they're working towards the good of other people. And if we can be doing that, then we're good.
I think that makes sense. So, I think, and you're talking about attributes. You're not talking about necessarily. It's obviously this is very culturally
right.
Disconnected.
You could point out the literal list that Nate just read and say, like, if we try to live this literally, it doesn't work.
So, are you saying that you take the second half of Proverbs 31 and fold it into the first half? Is that the partnership that you're talking about, the good king and the way that he treats the people that are with him, and then the good wife?
No, it's in chapter 8 where Lady Wisdom is described as like a partnership to Yahweh, to God.
Right.
And so the second half of Proverbs 31 representing the women being the partnership to the men.
Right. So at the beginning of Proverbs 31, it talks about what a good king looks like, a good leader. And so the partnership would be the attributes that are listed in the second part of Proverbs 31 as the equal leader that's helping benefit the society around them.
Like the counterpart to
Yes.
the first half. I'd need to reread it because
It could be, but I think the general idea that if we're understanding Proverbs 8 as being this personification of wisdom, who was in partnership with God, it's by wisdom God created the earth and all these things. And so when we get to the practical outlet of that, he's using the cultural context of the way we see the male and female partnership in marriage. And he's using that to leverage the idea of how wisdom in partnership with God produces this great life that produces all of this good that comes into the world. So it's not necessarily playing on the first part of the chapter to the second part of the chapter.
No,
it's more the idea of using that, just like Paul uses the analogy of marriage to explain the relationship of the church to Christ. He's using that same, I believe that Proverbs 8, at Proverbs 31, at the last half of it, is using this analogy of marriage to show dramatically how wisdom gets expressed into the world through our practical lifestyle.
Yeah, I suppose that because he's a king lemur, or a Lemuel, that would be the representation of Yahweh, the king, and then wisdom being the representation of this woman that's...
If we want to fixate on the details of that, I mean, if we want to just say, well, it's a king, so it's got to be a king, and we got to make that connection. But if we want to just expand it and broaden it out into human life and how we're interacting and interfacing with God and his wisdom, then we can use this marriage as a picture of how wisdom in working with partnership with God produces all of these good things. And that wisdom working in and through our lives produces all these good things. Does that make sense?
It does.
I like to look at it, if you were to pare it down and take away all the specificity of she does this sewing. She does, what you're talking about, she's caring for and loving her family. She's selfless. She's caring for others. She's selfless. She's thoughtful. She cares for the needy. To me, it's just a different version of, say, the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, long suffering. It's the same idyllic list we all want to attain to. And I don't think it's really any more than that. I don't think it's meant to be. I mean, we can take it as something that can be very discouraging, I think, to read. But I don't think that that's the general idea of it. It's more like, look at this love that she's expressing. Look at this kindness. Look at this charity, and putting herself last. And I think all those principles are in the New Testament too.
Yeah, it's the practical application. Proverbs 31 is the practical application of Proverbs 8. It's the practical way in which we see this demonstrated in a person's life.
Not an exhaustive list, but like the themes of it.
Right. Not an exhaustive list, not a comparison chart, not a standard that's held up saying that. And again, I love that Robbie brings up the fruit of the Spirit, because there we go. This is not something that we're going out to achieve on our own. This is something that grows in our life as we yield to the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives. These fruits, these Proverbs 31 fruits, begin to emerge, and we are industrious on behalf of others and caring for others, and being the voice of the voiceless and those kinds of things.
It's really interesting. I just thought about it whenever you said Proverbs. These are Proverbs. They're not, like there's other parts of Proverbs where it's all comparison and proverb, where it uses literal language. I can't even think of one, but like give to whoever and heap piles of coal on their head. Like it doesn't mean to take a literal pile of coal and put it on somebody's head.
Yeah. A classic one is like a person taking a dog by the ears is a person who gets in the middle of a fight between two friends.
So
this is not telling us. This is not an explanation of how to take care of animals. This is actually using imagery to leverage our understanding of the wise choices for life.
Yeah, I do think that it's interesting that we've used Proverbs as Proverbs, and we're like, oh, those are Proverbs. And then we get to the very last part, and we're like, that's not a proverb. You need to do this literally.
Literal.
Yeah. That was my biggest takeaway, I think, was when I saw that it was a poem, I'm like, oh, we don't usually take poems and,
Right.
take them as literal.
Turn them into instruction manuals.
Right.
What? You're looking at me.
I was going to ask you about the poem that you wrote, and if you would be willing. You certainly don't have to, but
Yeah, I can. I mean, I feel like whenever someone's like, I want to read you a poem, I'm like, oh, I really
Do
don't
you really want to?
But not that happens very often. Actually, I probably would be interested in someone's poem. If you have one, feel free to tell it to me. Yeah, so I wrote a poem a couple of years ago. Well, actually, I write poems, I think, when I'm struggling or just going through a hard time or whatever. It really helps me to like process how I'm feeling. So...
And before we get into, I want to hear this poem because I think this is really important. But to lead into that, to set the framework, to heighten the impact even of it, I really want to hear more because we've hit on it. But I really want to know, like, when you go to a Proverbs 31 small group or something like this.
I think this poem will help answer that question.
Okay, because I want to know what this what this does internally.
Okay, yeah. I made copies for those who do better reading along. Does that sound okay?
I'm definitely going to learn how to read.
It's like someone who's like, don't make me sing in the key of F, please. Here's my sheet music. There's one for each of you. Okay, I wrote this 3 years ago. And says Proverbs 31, and 31 is crossed out, and it says 32, woman. So it says, I am the Proverbs 31 modern woman. I work at home. I work at work. I hide in the back of parking lots. I am finally alone. No street light is bright enough to show the salty streams that drip down my wrinkled face. They canoe at the corners of my eyes, and they land somewhere between my toes. I wake up early to do my hair, only for someone to say it's a lot. And do I need to borrow their hairbrush? I stand up often to cook dinner, only for everyone to say nothing. I hear the sounds of their chewing, and each slosh goes straight to the gut. I rip the curtains off the walls, and I shred them to make streamers for the next kid's birthday party. I show these precious, venomous scars of Proverbs 31 to those close to me, and the response files my teeth. Why aren't you resting? You need to stop trying to do so much. I see it now. I just have to stop filling my day with all of these frivolous things like work and sleep. I will be so good that soon Proverbs 31 will not be enough to contain me. Yes, soon they will call me the Proverbs 32 woman. In the meantime, if you need me, I'll be in the back of the parking lot swimming in my very own saltwater lake.
Ooh, that's powerful. So I'm interested to know, like, I'm going to assume that yours is not a unique experience in this. Have you been able to share with and talk with other women about this sort of thing? And have you found the similar response?
Absolutely. I think it's interesting because, Matt's a marriage family therapist now. And the things that we have struggled with in our relationship, I mean, he sees almost across the board is almost every single couple where the woman is coming in feeling overworked and underappreciated. And that's what I think is interesting with Proverbs 31. And even with my friends, and we all talk too, I mean, it's hard. There's so much that you're carrying for your family, and there's so many invisible burdens of, Matt and I have talked about this a lot in our own lives of like, wait, why is it assumed that I'm always the one that does the birthday parties? And whenever there's a birthday party, I'm always the one buying the present for the birthday party. And whenever there's a dentist appointment, I'm doing that. And so we've had those conversations and have worked. And he does so much to appreciate me now. But it's taken a lot of conversations and honest conversations about that. And I'm so thankful for his interest in knowing how I'm feeling. But it took him kind of asking and checking in and realizing, oh my goodness, you carry so much more than I realized, visible and invisible. And it's something that he sees again a lot with his clients as well, of just, we're exhausted. And so I think that not that men can't be exhausted too. I don't mean it that way, but there is in the home, it's very rarely like a 50-50 split, I think, for the family and what the women are carrying there, especially if you're working too, because you have your job stuff as well, plus everything else. And so it's something that I feel like if we can see Proverbs 31 as an appreciation for what your partner is bringing and taking that time to pause and check in and realize, wow, there's a lot. I mean, when Matt checked in with me in that way, that was huge. That meant so much to me, and him saying, I care. I want to help carry this burden with you. That meant everything to me. And so that's something I do feel like just the practical application of this, I feel like could be in that way. Does that make sense? I said a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's really good. I know that in Robbie's and my relationship, when it first began, and we were thick into a very, I'm not going to say traditional reading of Proverbs 31, evangelical reading of Proverbs 31. And we were in the thick of that. And so, of course, you know, she's going to have the babies. She's going to take care of everything. I'm going to go to work for 8 hours. And then I come home, she's got to take care of me because that's the way that's supposed to work and stuff. But we had our first child, Jessica, and I was just cruising along. You know, this is the way this works. Everything's great, I think. I'm pretty sure it's pretty good, you know. And at one point, Robbie had to say to me, you know, Rob, I actually need help. This is more than I can do. And it was shocking to me, the realization that, gosh, I had no idea. I was absolutely not paying attention to this. And, you know, and it's been an ongoing learning process because, listen, I don't know if I can get away with saying this in 2026, but I just feel like men are dense. I mean, it takes a lot to get through on this. And I don't know why that is.
Well,
I don't know if that's
culturally, they're not trained.
We're not trained.
Like taught.
Correct.
But
I also think that even beyond that, there may be even something there, just a certain perpetual childness that's there waiting to be taken care of. And it's just, and so, you know, it's been an ongoing process, but I would say that from that point, the recognition, realization that this isn't just, she's in need. And she brings so much to the table on this whole thing. There's absolutely no way that we can just ignore that and not be present to help and appreciate. And I know I haven't always been good with that. So, I mean,
you'll have to give me the mic.
That's enough.
There's a lot of practical, aspects to this too. And definitely I felt like I was supposed to do all of that and be okay with it. And it got to the point where we had our kids pretty close together, and just physically, you just can't do it all. And just, I don't know if this relates specifically to what we're talking about, but I just remember feeling like, why do I have to ask? Can't you see what's going on? I mean, it seems obvious to me. And once I got off my high horse and realized it's okay to ask, and it's okay to say, I can't do it all, because I felt like I should. I felt like I should have been able to do it all. God gave me these children, and so learning to ask was I always felt appreciated, but it's okay to ask.
And accepting the help is another difficult thing. Yeah, that's something.
Because they might not do it right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a whole other, oh my gosh, I could talk so much about that. But it is a different thing too, I think. And I think Proverbs 31 has sometimes contributed to that guilt that you feel at taking time for yourself.
Yes.
Because I want to be this person who can do all these things, who can wake up early. And then so if you're having to ask your spouse for help, you feel like a failure. And then if you have to take them up on that help and you take time for yourself, well, that's not represented in Proverbs 31. So am I selfish? Am I a bad mom?
Yeah.
Am I letting people down that I need this break?
If you need a hot bath or you want to do a puzzle, no. That's not an option.
Wait 20 years and ask again.
That's right.
What were you going to say, Dad?
I was going to say that you hit on it in your poem, and I think it's brilliant in that the tension that gets developed here, because we've got Proverbs 31 on one side, and then we've got the story of Mary and Martha on the other. And I think that's what you were alluding to in your poem there, is that on one side you've got the pressure of Proverbs 31. You got to be doing all this stuff, and if you're going to be a good the virtuous woman, you're going to be industrious, doing all this work, et cetera, et cetera. But then when it's beginning to collapse around you, everybody's like, well, why aren't you resting? Why don't you look at, Martha? Why are you being such a Martha?
I get called Martha a lot.
And so I can only imagine the struggle that would create in and of itself. And that's, again, us misinterpreting that story completely. It was never trying to belittle Martha for what she was doing. It was pointing out the fact that Mary was a disciple in that moment, learning along with the men, and Martha was scandalized by it. But again, so a misapplication of that story compounds the problem that women face when confronted with a framework of Proverbs 31 as being the template for the ideal wife.
Right, exactly.
So but you said you had a transliteration of this, a modernized acrostic.
Not really modernized. I worked on this for like 10 minutes. I didn't have time to like go into give it meaning. So I just it's kind of like a translation into.
If you read Proverbs 31, you would know how to prep and be prepared for these things. You would have woke up before the sun came up.
Yeah, that's true.
And got this done.
He's got a point, Nate.
But anyway, it's English alphabet, so it's A through Z, and it's nothing like. Okay, I'll just read it.
Yeah.
An honorable woman is hard to find and worth more than precious jewels, because she requires a husband to trust her. Can she honor him and bring him harm, and not bring him harm? Do the work of spinning thread. Exotic food she brings from far away. Firelight lights her morning as she makes breakfast. Guide the servants with the plans she has made. Hard at work even before the sun rises. Inspects land before she purchases it. Joyfully she plants crops with her savings. Knowing the labor of hard work, she is strong. Lamplight shines through her window late into the night, making sure her dealings are profitable. Notable is the fiber she spins into thread. Open hand covered in calluses from working them. Poverty knows her not as a stranger, quick to extend a helping hand. Resewn are the winter coats before the winter comes. Snow will fall, but its cold won't touch her family. Tapestries she makes with the thread she has spun. Utilizes her skills in making clothes and sells them in the market. Values of honor and dignity she wears. Wise are the words that come from her kind mouth. X-ray view she has of her household. Young children of hers bless her. Zeal is held for her in the work she has done.
Listen,
Oh
okay.
my gosh, dude!
So
that was amazing.
We have
so
two things
Told you have
that
a
were
gift.
I was going to say
was
there's
nice
two things in
Mine
this
was more
podcast that
depressing.
should be published. I mean, like,
That was so good. But
That's
both
good.
of them were so good. Yours was good.
I wanted to go first because I think yours is more impactful, and that would have been a nicer thing to end on.
Is that why you had one single tear while I was reading?
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to go first because you're the guy.
I'm
Both
so
need to
sorry.
be included in the show notes for the podcast if you're able.
Do what?
Do we have show
Both
notes?
of those need to be included in the show notes for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be cool.
And along
remember,
with your
I called yours brilliant. I said so.
No, I just wanted to hear it again.
No,
Thank you.
I remember when you first said that to us, you were like trying to leave, and then you just said it and
Then
just
left.
left. And I was just like
me and Nate were sitting there looking at each other like, what do we do with this?
speechless. Yeah.
I felt so bad. I almost texted y'all later, like, sorry, I just said that really depressing poem and then ran away. But I had to get my kids from school. Proverbs 31. You get it.
No, Nate and I tried to discuss that after. And so here's the thing, like it comes from this is very, like Rob was talking about, just guys are dense, but I have no problem saying that. I haven't met very many that aren't, so I'm okay with that. Years ago, I think right before you were going to be pastor here, I can't remember, but you and I had a conversation, and I got I got access to open a door that I did not know was there. So as a guy, just traveling through the world and everything like that, I wanted to be empathetic to other races, to women, to people that are having a different experience. I didn't know that there was a woman's room door or whatever that had to be accessed in the world. As a white straight male, I don't have a door, right? I just walk wherever I walk, and there's never a problem.
It's like a comedian one time said, if you could go anywhere in time, when would you go? And he said, as long as I'm a white male, I'll go anywhere.
Right. And it is that. So I didn't know that there were doors that needed access to. I guess the closest would be, like very wealthy place to go in, that I'm maybe not allowed into or something like that I'd have to find my way into.
You're talking about my house, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, man.
He finds his way in, though. Don't worry.
I mean,
We're always chewing him out with a broom.
you got 42 rooms, man. I can't find you in here. But so to recognize that you have to find access into places.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was a thing. So I always had that traditional idea of, Proverbs 31. I was like, I don't understand the big deal because how is it more difficult for a woman or a black person to be able to navigate the world? And I've finally started to wake up to that in the last decade or so. But it's interesting listening to your poem and those kind of things. But I will say that for anybody that is listening that can't quite understand it, pray about that. Pray about the fact that there are people that have different lived experiences and be open to the closed accesses that you don't have. It's a hard thing to do. I don't know how to say it.
Empathy, yeah. Conscious of the close, yeah. And having empathy for others is something we have to be, what's the word? Purposeful about.
Intentional.
That's it. Intentional about that. Yeah, I know Rob will joke every now and then. I've never had a problem with childbirth. I don't know what people's thing is, or and there's lots of ways we can step back. And I think it's just a choice we have to make to be empathetic.
Well, and I think also taking the time to listen to other people's perspectives is so important, that we, as Christians, we don't have to be scared of what those different experiences are, because sometimes they can look outside of the Proverbs 31 mold that we place on women, and it can be scary to ask questions about that and to just say, we can do that. We don't have to be scared of that when we come to Scripture. We don't have to be scared of that when we talk to other people and learn about their lives. And I mean, just the fact that you all are here listening to this that I wrote means so much. And the conversation, Blake, I remember you and I had a few years ago, the fact that you wanted to know about my perspective meant so much to me. And even like I talked about with Matt and I, him asking, what is your experience? How can I, help? And I mean, I feel like that's a good starting place for everybody.
I remember that you had said that you just didn't want to be known as a good female pastor. You just wanted to be known as a good pastor, right? And I was like, I don't want to be known as a Cajun pastor, but
But there it is, and you can't escape it.
All right, this is getting too long. We need to end this.
All right. That's fair.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I imagine, that this was years of struggle for you.
And not a problem anymore.
And I could definitely hear that in your words and your poem and everything. And I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Aww.
So
thanks for listening. And I liked your poem too. I'm sorry. They all complimented you and I turned it right back around on me. So I feel bad about that now. But it was really cool what you did.
Oh, yeah.
I was impressed. By both.
Good.
You didn't say anything about my poem.
Well, what?
No.
All right. Bye. If you, the listener, have any questions or if there's something you want to learn more about, you can send us an email at egcfpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening.
Lemuel. The lemur.
An honorable woman is hard to find and worth more than precious jewels, because she requires a husband to trust her. Can she honor him and bring him harm, and not bring him harm? Do the work of spinning thread. Exotic foods she brings from far away. Firelight lights her morning as she makes breakfast. Guide the servants with the plans she has made. Hard at work even before the sun rises. Inspects land before she purchases it. Joyfully she plants crops with her savings. Knowing the labor of hard work, she is strong. Lamplight shines through her window late into the night, making sure her dealings are profitable. Notable is the fiber she spins into thread. Open hand covered in calluses from working them. Poverty knows her not as a stranger, quick to extend a helping hand. Resewn are the winter coats before the winter comes. Snow will fall, but its cold won't touch her family. tapestries she makes with the thread she has spun, utilizes her skills in making clothes and sells them in the market, values of honor and dignity she wears, wise are the words that come from her kind mouth, X-ray view she has of her household, young children of hers bless her, zeal is held for her in the work she has done.
Listen,
Oh
okay.
my gosh.
So it says, I am the Proverbs 31 modern woman. I work at home. I work at work. I hide in the back of parking lots. I am finally alone. No street light is bright enough to show the salty streams that drip down my wrinkled face. They canoe at the corners of my eyes, and they land somewhere between my toes. I wake up early to do my hair, only for someone to say, it's a lot. And do I need to borrow their hairbrush? I stand up often to cook dinner, only for everyone to say nothing. I hear the sounds of their chewing, and each slosh goes straight to the gut. I rip the curtains off the walls, and I shred them to make streamers for the next kid's birthday party. I show these precious, venomous scars of Proverbs 31 to those close to me, and the response files my teeth. Why aren't you resting? You need to stop trying to do so much. I see it now. I just have to stop filling my day with all of these frivolous things like work and sleep. I will be so good that soon Proverbs 31 will not be enough to contain me. Yes, soon they will call me the Proverbs 32 woman. In the meantime, if you need me, I'll be in the back of the parking lot swimming in my very own saltwater lake.